Welcome to our channel Blender Tips. In this tutorial, you will learn that how we can create a fur of the different animals and different styles of grass by using fur option in Blender 3.5. You can see that by using fur in Blender 3.5, we find an asset browser essentials in which you can find different types of hair styles, and here you can find deformation, generation, guides, read, utility, write, are these are the modifiers in library, assets library and Blender 3.5. And when we add fur to any geometry, then you can find that different modifiers are added into the modifier stack. Here are the different modifiers which are used to create this beautiful curly fur in Blender 3.5. These are the set hair curve profile modifier, enter hair curves modifiers, and so on. In this video, I will explain all these modifiers to create a realistic fur in Blender 3.5. So let's start. First, I open default Blender 3.5 and select all, delete everything. Now press Shift A to add a plane and press Tab, enter into the edit mode and subdivide this plane and back to the object mode. And then press Shift A again, and here in curves you find an option for in Blender 3.5. By pressing this fur, you can find a lot of curves are attached to this plane, and these curves are used to create a fur of the different animals, and you can also create a grass by using these fur. And if we enter into the modifier, then you can see that by pressing the option fur, we find a different 5 modifiers are added to the modifier stack. These modifiers are set hair curve profile modifier, interpolate hair curves nice, frizz hair curves, and surface deform modifier. By changing different options in this modifier, we can create a fur of the different animals and also a grass. So we discuss these these different modifiers one by one. For that, first I open this set hair curve profile modifier, and this modifier is responsible for the radius width of the hair curves. By changing the radius option, you can see that nothing happening in the curves, and how we can change, and by changing these radius, this can change these curves. For that, we enter into the render properties, and here we find an option curves, and in shape we change from strand to strip and also subdivision up to 2. Now you can see that the radius of these curves are changing. Here you can see. So by default it is 0.001. So by using, and here are the shapes of hair strands, and if we increase this value, you can see that the shape of these curves are interpolate, starting bigger at the root of the hairs and linearly decrease to the tip of these hair curves. So if we decrease this value to the negative, then you can see that the root of the curves has smaller radius than the tip of these curves. So by positive this value, you can see that the tip is greater radius than its the root has greater radius than its tip, and this is the natural. So in set hair curve profile, we can change the radius of the curves from different directions, and the next modifier is interpolate modifier. And in interpolate modifier we can find different option. The first one is surface option, and in surface, the hair curves is attached to which surface, and if I deselect it, then you can find there is no curve attached to this plane. And also this plane have a UV map from which you can attach these hair curves to the different geometry of an different objects. So back to the option, and here you can find the interpolation guides. The interpolation guides you can see in sculpt mode. These are the interpolation guides which are attached to the hair curves, and the hair curves are interpolate with these curves. And here is a distance between these guides, and the density is the numbers of curves in this specific unit area. So if I change this value up to 10,000, then you can find more curves to this area. So in interpolation hair curves, we can increase the density of the hair curves and also attach to the specific object to these hair curves. So the third is hair curve noise, and this modifier is responsible for distortion, deformations of the hair curves. And back to the object mode, and here you can find if I change this value, then distortions happening in hair curves. You can find more distortion if we change this value. So by changing these option in hair curves noise, we distort the hair curves, and by default this is 0.500. And now the fourth is frizz hair curve modifier. The frizz hair curve modifier is responsible for the frizz in the hair curves. Here you can see that there is no frizz at the root of the hair curves and a smaller frizz at the tip of these curves. And if I change this value, then you can see that the more frizz is at tip, and if I negative this value, then you can see that the frizz is happening at the tip of root of these curves and not. So by changing the shape in frizz, you can change the frizz of the hair curves from tip to the root. And the fifth one is surface deform modifier, which is responsible. This surface is attached to this curves, and if we scale this plane and also scale down this plane, you can find that these curves are attached to this plane. For that, I enter into the sculpt mode, and here in curve you can find a snap to deform surface, and if I increase or decrease the surface area of this plane, the curves are also changing accordingly. So back to the object mode. These are the basics of the fur in Blender 3.5. And now rotate this curve along x-axis to 90 degree and press 3 in right orthographic view. And here you find more option in sculpt mode. By pressing F, you can increase and decrease this circle, something like here, and here we increase the size of these curves and select this option projected because it can hold apply to these curves. And here you can see we can increase the size of these curves, something like here. And you can see that by pressing this projected option, the whole curves are increases uniformly. And select now this option comp and also press projected, and here you can see the result. By using comb, you can change the direction of the hair curves. Nice. Now in front view, and back to the object mode and select the hair curves, and I apply some material to these like view pure display material, and here I change the material something like this and also decrease this value. Nice. Now I open the asset browser, and in Blender 3.5 in asset browser you can find an option essential, which are the different assets modifier in Blender 3.5. And here you can see uh, the list of these modifiers. Here are deformation modifiers and generation modifier, guides, read, utility, and write. These are the modifiers which can be used to deform the hair curves. So here is an modifier which is curl hair modifier, which can be used to create a curly hair. So we can drag and drop option to apply this modifier, and here you can see what happening. The curls are produced in the corpse, and here an curl hair modifier is added to the stack. So the surface deform modifier is always below the stack, and I move this curl hair modifier just below the hair curve. Nice here, and I open this, and also here we can disable this hair curve noise modifier, and these are the options in hair curl hair modifier. From here we can change these options to create different curly hairs. So the radius of these curls is 2 centimeter. Here you can see, and it start from the curl start from 1. Here you can see the changings in this. The frequency is the rotations of these curves. Here I put 3, and you can see 3 curls are changings in the curve modifier. And also I change this value 0.200 to see some more effect, and also increase the randomness. Nice. These by using curl hair modifier we can create a curly hair, uh, but uh, the hair curves are too much smaller in this surface area, so we increase some more hair curves to find more details. So in interpolate I increase the density up to beautiful. Now you can see that different curly hairs are produced in the curves. So by using these modifier we can create different styles of hair, and also the fur of the different animals, and different styles of grass. So in Blender 3.5, by using the assets library in Blender 3.5, and also using the fur option, we can create the fur of the different animals and different types of grasses. Thanks for watching.